Hey guys, Scott here, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about like the dichotomy of how behavior balances things and how sometimes they make really good decisions and how sometimes they make really bad decisions, and how I don't understand how the same development team can make the decisions that, they vary so drastically in terms of being a good or a bad idea. For example, I think the Leatherface changes are pretty cool. It's obvious that Leatherface needed a buff. Everyone knew that Leatherface needed a buff, including the devs, so they buffed him, and that's cool. Some of the add-ons are very strange, but I'm not gonna really grill them for that. It's hard to, design all good add-ons. And overall, Leatherface is a pretty cool change. I'm not even gonna talk about Hillbilly, even though I don't think he needed a nerf. I just think his add-ons needed a nerf. I think Tuning Guide and Thompson's Mix and the engravings and stuff like that, those needed to be looked at because I think a base kit Billy is the most balanced thing in the entire game. I think that is the perfect target for balance. That is where good players can still easily outplay it, and a good Hillbilly can still shit on most people if they know how to play him well. So I think Hillbilly was the perfect form of balance, so I don't think he needed that many changes. I think the overheat mechanic, from what I've seen though, is not that detrimental. It's not a big deal, and they removed the whole insta-saw thing, which I think did need to happen. So I'm not even that upset about Billy. I think people are kind of exaggerating on that a little bit. But what I wanted to go over is some changes to some perks that they made. And I just don't understand how this design team can make such good decisions and such bad decisions like one line away from each other. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I already made a video about the strange add-on design with Billy, like the flashlight movement speed increase one that literally does nothing. It's a more along that same line of thinking. I don't know how that ever seems like an idea that should be added to the game. I don't know how that passes through anything, because anyone that's played the game for more than 12 seconds can tell you that that is the dumbest thing that they've ever read. So, here, let's start with a positive thing. This is a perfect example of what patches should be happening every couple of weeks. This takes zero effort. They're literally changing an 85 to a 70. And a 12 from an 8. That's it. They're changing like 5 numbers. That would take 15 seconds to change. And these little numerical changes like that take no effort, and it can be something I feel like they don't have to update this game once every month and a half. They can update the game every, couple weeks with just tiny little things like this. It would take zero effort. And this is a perfect example of a really good perk change. It keeps the essence of what Tinkerer does, doesn't change anything unnecessarily, and it just buffs the numbers to make it a bit more of a respectable perk. That's perfect. That's exactly what they should do to like half the perks in the game to make them more usable. And that would shift up the meta so much and take so teeny bit of effort. It takes so little effort, and I just don't know why they don't do that. Just some small number adjustments is really all half the shit in this game needs. So, Tinker, perfect example. Really cool. Then we start getting into the why. Like, why would you do that? And here's the thing. I understand that they're balancing a lot of these perks, or really almost all of these perks, based on the killers that are receiving changes. Hillbilly and Leatherface got changes, so they're changing Hillbilly and Leatherface's perks. The thing is, though, a lot of them didn't really need any changes. It's like, just because they were part of the patch where they're changing the killers, they thought, instead of, fixing Soul Survivor, which is unrelated to any of these killers, and it's a survivor perk. A perk that desperately needed changes more than these other ones. Instead of, focusing on that, they wanted to fit the theme of, sticking with the things that they're changing. And, that's how they work a lot. They don't rework maps most of the time unless there's a killer associated with it, like Freddy and all the Bantam reworks. They don't rework perks unless it's a killer rework. Like, so I would like for them to get out of that mold where they can only modify things based on the thing that they're currently reworking. You can touch up a lot of these perks with minimal effort and have really good changes. But when you do this, and you have no real good reason to, you just get a lot of strange decisions, like the Lightborn change. Basically, they're making it so you just become immune to flashlights. And I'll tell you now, the old Lightborn already made you immune to flashlights. There is no way you could ever get blinded if you had Lightborn, unless 3 people were shining flashlights at you and you just stood there and looked at them for like 3 seconds. That's the only way you could ever actually get blinded. So you were already effectively completely immune to being blinded. Now, They also added this effect that makes it so their auras get revealed for 6 or 8 seconds, or 6, 10 seconds. All right, that's cool. If they're shining a flashlight on you, that means they're like 3 feet away from you. So what, you're gonna see their aura as they run 10 more feet away from you? Like, it doesn't... All right, whatever. It doesn't do anything. The Franklin change, again, is another example of why the perk was fine. I don't think it needed any additional changes. Just, I don't know why they devoted effort into this shit instead of other perks that desperately need reworks or number changes and things like that. Again, Franklin's is just a what? All right, whatever, sure. Knockout makes no sense. They literally say Knockout has been underperforming, and the first line is, we nerfed Knockout. It doesn't make any... It's like they're so scared to just buff things, they have to always introduce some sort of negative with it, too. Knockout is underperforming. It's a underused perk. It's cool in theory, but the problem is Survive with Friends counters it immensely. Even just 2 people in a group, which is in half your games. One guy goes down, hey, I'm down at Shack. Knockout does nothing. Hey, I'm down at the jungle gym at, this end of the map. Does nothing. So, in this scenario, Knockout does literally nothing. And that's why they decided that they need to buff it. But the first thing they do is nerf it. So it only works on basic attacks. When it's a perk of a chainsaw killer that's supposed to hit people with their chainsaw, that's not a basic attack. Like, even fitting the theme of the killer doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know why they would add this. There's no reason for this line to be here. If that line wasn't here, it still wouldn't be a good enough perk to run most of the time. Because the issue is groups calling it out and negating the fact that you have it. Something you could do, like, this is part of the ongoing balance in making Survive with Friends and solo queue closer together, in my opinion. They can make it so Knockout makes it so you can't move when you're down, or you move very slowly when you're down, but your screen becomes black. Now you can't really relay the information anymore. Maybe your screen goes black, and because you're knocked out, to you, the killer is undetectable. So now you can't say if the killer's nearby, you can't really say where you are unless you exactly remember where you are and you didn't move at all. And that wouldn't really affect anything solo queue-wise, because you couldn't tell this shit to people anyway. But in Survive with Friends, it's now not as strong because you don't have nearly as much information. That's part of that whole bridging the gap between solo queue and Survive with Friends. So I think that's a simple example of something they could have done that would make it more useful. And they just didn't do that. Instead, they somehow just made the perk worse, which is just incredible. So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. A lot of the time, they make these changes that make no sense when they don't even need to be changed to begin with. And I just have to wonder why. There's just no need for a lot of this stuff. And there's a lot of perks in this game that have way more need of a change. So that's basically what I'm saying here. I wish they would focus on more of the things that really needed changes and not just change things that are just based on the theme of the current thing that they're working on. So that's about it. My pizza has been in the oven and I hear it beeping, so I must end this video right now. Goodbye.